The collapse of a Mustang occurred during a. Everyone believed that the snowstorm was simply another casualty of the severe winter, but three ranchers learned what lay underneath him. Their emotions halted what they discovered would alter all of their beliefs regarding wild horses and the extent to which an animal would go to safeguard what is most important. Ready for a challenging story? Your comprehension of sacrifice and surviving the February snowstorm. The merciless crimson desert of Wyoming. Rancher Jake Morrison had spent 40 years spent squinting through these lands. The snow was whirling and his truck was crawling. Tom and his friends were along the old fence line, and Miguel sat tensely next to him. They were looking for Jake's silence, livestock that were missing, but what they discovered instead, stop, would haunt them forever. Miguel yelled abruptly, gesturing towards a shadowy figure hardly discernible through the white curtain of the snow. There's something out there. Jake pushed the truck's brakes, slipping a little on the frozen surface. Through the windscreen frosted in frost, they could see a big figure lying. Initially, Jake remained still in the snow, believed it to be a cow of his, but as they ventured outside into the fierce wind, when the truth was revealed, it was a gorgeous black stallion known as a Mustang, whose coat was now covered in a layer of. The horse was lying on his side in the snow, breathing in short, noticeable puffs. He had his legs tucked in the cold air, oddly beneath him, and his customary, an arrogant head leaned hard on the. Tom said he's still alive, on frozen ground, seen cautiously kneeling at a. Years of ranch work at a distance had taught them all to honor the authority and erratic behavior of wild horses, particularly those who were hurt, but something was incorrect with this image. The Mustang's posture didn't seem right, as if he was purposefully keeping himself, in spite of his evident fatigue. His black eyes remained vigilant in spite of condition monitored their activities with. The intensity was so intense that Jake's skin itched. Why isn't he trying to get up? Miguel pondered out loud while examining the scene. Even wounded horses typically attempt to stand when people approach. Jake made a slow round in an attempt to obtain a clearer perspective of the snow surrounding the Mustang. Was agitated, displaying indications of a battle, but the horse persisted, eerily quiet aside from the quick ascent. Then he fell off his ribcage, something Jake took attention of. Strangely, there is a small hollow in the snow under the horse's body, as though he, taking cover from the howling wind, surrounded them, and Jake had a cold feeling that was unrelated to the temperature. This was more than just a wounded horse. Was there a beast guarding something, defending himself with his own body against the storm while defending what Jake took a cautious step forward once more too. Mustang fixed his gaze on his in that. Jake's first sighting of not just an animal, but a soul full of fervent resolve. With his nostrils flaring, the horse made not exactly a whinny, but a low warning sound, more akin to an appeal. Boys, Jake murmured in a low voice. Over the wind, barely audible. I suppose this horse requires extreme caution. Is protecting. The trio of men stood motionless, not due to the cold, but rather to the burden of Jake's hands slowly rising at the moment, speaking softly and in a soothing gesture. Calming music for the Mustang that has fallen. Come on, big guy. We're not here to hurt you. Tom took his phone out. No signal. We can't call, he said, shaking his head. Wildlife, or the veterinarian. Service is the Wyoming's isolation. Backcountry is now perceived as a blessing. Miguel, the youngest of the group, feels cursed. 3 had been around horses since the age of 35. In New Mexico, on his family's ranch, he identified the hypothermia symptoms in the shaky muscles of the Mustang, and he's been here for hours, his eyes hazy. Perhaps longer. We must move quickly. The stallion's breathing became increasingly difficult. Jake observed new blood while they were watching, penetrating the snow close to the horses. His wounded hind legs may have been entangled in outdated barbed wire or captured in a fall while they discussed what to do next. Suddenly, Mustang grunted in pain. The movement slipped out of his throat, showed a hint of what was underneath. A brown fur patch that didn't. Jesus, to match his black suit, Tom. There's another horse under him. The epiphany altered everything. This was more than simply a wounded Mustang. It was a stallion defending one of the. Jake's mind was racing with his herd. Chances of a younger horse becoming mayor. The wild horse's urge for protection was renowned, but witnessing it directly in such dire conditions were. Miguel approached in an attempt to overpower him. How improve the appearance without frightening? The stallion, whatever it is smaller. He's totally hiding it behind his body. Driving snow was scooped up by the wind. It was necessary for them to make a decision swiftly. The temperature was rapidly declining, and both horses were in risk, but transferring a wounded protective stallion work was hazardous, even for knowledgeable. We need the truck supplies, ranchers. Jake made the decision to ropes the emergency supply and those blankets for horses. Tom was returning to the car when the Mustang's gaze trailed after him with unexpected vigilance upon Tom's return. The excitation of the horse with the supplies grew. He attempted to raise his head, his straining of the neck muscles with attempt he thinks were a threat. Miguel noted in his thoughts that he's the only thing separating danger from whatever he's shielding. Over his 40 years, Jake had witnessed a lot regarding ranching. However, the resolve in the eyes of this untamed horse were something unique in spite of his wounds. Despite the stallion refused to kill cold, leave his position. They devised a strategy. Miguel would move in front of them, maintaining the stallion's focus and softly speaking the Spanish language that frequently appeared to soothe horses. Tom and Jake would cautiously attempt to determine what was beneath the equine and evaluate the circumstances as Miguel started to move in. The stallion pinned back his ears, but he lacked the strength to accomplish more than display his teeth in. His appeal was feeble yet full with desperation, bravery, at which point they heard. It was a faint, muted sound coming from below. The stallion made a noise that caused the hearts of men skip. The soft horse wasn't another one. Winnie's high-pitched voice came from. Everything was built beneath the stallion. Miguel's eyes grew crystal clear as he put the truth about Dios Mio together. He is safeguarding a baby. Jake felt his throat constrict after all these years. He had never seen horses before working with them. Something like this, a stallion in the wild serving as a living sanctuary for his own body to shield a bird from the fatal storm that the connotation of blood in the snow changed. This horse had persevered despite being hurt and fatigued to establish a partition between both the infant and the fatal cold. Had to have fallen, Tom thought, his voice full of passion, and he simply lay down on top of the stallion. In order to maintain its warmth, the mathematical survival was easy, but the stallion's body heat is heartbreaking, was the sole source of the foe's survival. But he was gradually dying from the effort. Each minute they were late raised Miguel proceeded to put both horses at risk. His gentle approach, now realizing the intense protectiveness of stallions. He said, "Tranquilo, Papa. We're here to assist your infant." Regardless of the horse, recognized the goal or was just too tired to oppose his resistance. Jake, a little weaker, grabbed the opportunity to gain a better understanding of the circumstances that he observed, made his hands shake. The FO was small, most likely only a. Its brown coat was noticeable at a few weeks of age. In areas where the body of the stallion had moved, the infant was not cognizant but breathing, entirely reliant on the above the living shield. "We must labor." Quickly, Jake said, "Tom, get the warming. Get the covers ready." Miguel continued speaking to. "I'll try something Jake had," he said, a notion derived from despair and, after decades of experience, he was unable to move. By coercion, the stallion would battle to the end of his life. Although it's possible that he could persuade. Instead of being adversaries, they were allies. Jake took his knife out and sliced open one of their spreading sweets with emergency feed bags. Snow with grain in it, right outside the horse's nostrils are reached by the stallion. His appetite burned at the familiar scent, battling his instinct for protection. Jake urged, "That's it, boy. We're folks, we wish to assist." The stallion's gaze shifted back and forth between the grain, and the men's bewilderment is apparent in his expressiveness of wild horses seldom came across people who were offering meals. Instead of pushing people away, the gesture appeared to change anything in his. Recognizing Miguel's observation of the shift, he's considering it as well. So keep going. Jake spread additional grain, forming a trail that leads a little bit away from where. Just shift, and the FO lay comes on. Wonderful. Let us assist your infant the next time. A few seconds seemed like hours. The stallion's intuition was clearly preserve the FO while surviving his own. Survival was meaningless, but maybe these. Wherever he could, odd people could aid. But at last, despite much work, the stallion started to move closer to yet only enough to reveal the infants. From the shift, the entire extent, condition of both horses, the FO was. Its ribs were smaller than they had anticipated, revealed by its winter coat. However, with the FO partly uncovered, Jake realized how urgent the situation was. Took hold of the emergency blankets, says Tom. Got the first aid kit ready. The small one's body was breathing shallowly, dangerously low temperature in spite of the stallions. We must obtain both of them for protection. Miguel advised them to go somewhere warm, but they all understood how difficult the mission was to do. Wild horses are particularly protective, defenseless, and stallion wasn't. Something he did with the wind. Howl more loudly, and Jake decided. Anyone would have thought that was crazy. Who didn't realize that we're not? We're building a shelter, so we're transferring them. Tom glanced at him as if he had lost his mind. In this storm, the truck's mind has that makeshift tent in the rear end. The stallion is refusing to leave, so we have tarps. Moving the baby and the FO could kill it. We make do with what we have, as Tom and Miguel hurried to the truck where Jake was staying. The stallion observed him with the horses. Tired, yet there was a change in their innovative grain offering had formed a provisional trust with Jake. He slowly opened his hand to let the stallion inhale the scent of the horse's nostrils. Ignited, smelling him. My grandchild is roughly the age of. For Jake, this meant stating, I know that you're a baby protector. You know, hero. The stallion's ears flitted at it. Close up of his voice, Jake could see the horse's toll from the ordeal. His coat was drab, and his eyes were sunken. Fatigue, the injuries on his legs were more detrimental than they had seemed from long, deep claw marks that revealed a horrifying tale. Cougar, Jake said, acknowledging the markings. The parts came together to form perhaps a cougar attack on the herd, aiming for the stallion's battleground. It off but paid for it in the confusion. The FO was no longer attached to its. Miguel and Mother Tom came back with materials, and they practiced using productivity with the vehicle as They set up an improvised windbreak, covered the two horses with a tarp. The wind caused the walls to flap wildly, but Miguel, it was better than nothing, cautiously crawled towards the direction of the FO. The stallion stiffened under the heated blanket, but didn't assault. Don't worry, Papa Miguel calmed. Parb as soon as Miguel finished a covering encircling the object of a magical occurred when the youngster roused a feeble. The sound of Winnie exiting its lips appeared to breathe new life into the stallion. His head nickered lightly in answer. Bending to give the infant the fuss of, Miguel said, Philly, and raised his hands, swiftly evaluating her condition. Drain hypothermic, but not seriously. Wounds, she's a fighter. Jake experienced a wave of comfort. However, they were still in danger. The stallion's injuries required care, but he didn't think the untamed horse would permit it. They required another strategy. Tom blends a few electrolytes with heated water. Miguel continues to work on the Philadelphia. Jake, I'm going to do something dumb. Brought the medical device up to the stallion. Supplies in his hands as opposed to. In an attempt to conceal his objectives, he displayed the horse's antiseptic bandages and everything. Antibiotics. I am aware of your lack of trust. Human beings, Jake murmured softly, but as Jake completed tending to the stallion's injuries, Tom discovered something that altered their comprehension of the whole circumstance. Concealed beneath the snow, where the tiny stallion had been lying, the type of leather bag that locals use. Fauna. Look at this, Tom called the researchers, sweeping the snow off the worn Leather had papers in A. This stallion, tracking tag he's recorded. And Jake shook as he grasped the papers, squinting hands to read in the low light, passing through their improvised refuge. What he found chilled me to the bone. Down his back that was unrelated to. With a icy ghost. That's what Walker Jake read out loud. Called him. He has been under observation for 8 years, but take note of what he's renowned for. Miguel looked up, adopting orphan children, leaving his position caring for the filly. He has already done this 3 times. Based on these notes, wildlife biologists have recorded him consuming. People who lost their moms refer to him as FOS. Jake's voice, the herd's protector, captured in this. Filly is his lead's daughter. Mayor. Stormcloud, a cougar murdered her. Assault 2 days prior. The fragments of the puzzle came together with the stallion's heartbreaking clarity. Wasn't merely shielding himself from defending the infant, his adopted daughter. The claw marks on his favorite mare. His hide revealed his terrible situation. Battled to preserve both of their eyes. Expanded as he read on, and theirs. Walker is 22 years old, which is more ghostly. For a wild stallion, the ancient, researchers discovered that he has been exhibiting indications of aging and difficulty maintaining his place within the herd. Miguel murmured, his hand still, and he knew it. Softly caressing the filly, was aware that he might not make it through the winter, yet he still decided to save her. Their rescue was changed by the revelation. Mission into something deeper. Saving 2 horses wasn't the only goal here. It was about paying tribute to the legacy of kindness that disregarded the strict regulations of. Jake of Nature knelt next to Ghost Walker, looking at him through fresh eyes. The stallion's breathing difficulties weren't solely caused by cold and harm. It was an elderly person's breath. A fighter defending every scar with his final stand. Told a tale of FOS being saved on his body. Predators engaged in combat and a way of existence. Tom asked his herd, "What do we do?" Question with his customary stoicism, cracking the sanctuary that these publications discuss is. He'll never make it 50 miles away. Prior to. Jake may respond to the agitated filly. Her eyes flew open more forcefully. Brilliant, perceptive eyes the hue of. She weakly raised her head, black honey, and noticed Ghost Walker next to her. She didn't make a whinny at sound. Was more akin to a Ghost Walker query, replied by softly nickering his. The muzzle touched hers at that precise time. Their love was. Unquestionably, this wasn't a gut feeling or obligation. This was family. Jake, we won't be taking them anyplace. Decided to bring assistance here today. Drive to town in the pickup and pick up Dr. Sarah Winters is the sole veterinarian who works with wild. She learns about Ghost Walker from horses. She will. Tom, enter this storm. Protested and showed her who he was. At this point, the storm had peaked. As soon as Tom's pickup vanished into the Miguel and Jake huddled in the white nothingness. The temporary shelter where the 2 horses, the walls of the tarp, which may, with every gust of wind Luna had, pull away, stood up, but swayed dangerously, continuing to rely on Ghost Walker for assistance. She wants milk, Miguel noticed when observing the filly's natural, exploratory actions. She hasn't been nursing. Jake recalled the emergency during those days. Mars milk powder is one of the supplies. We maintain the kit's replacer for orphan calves, however it could be useful as. Miguel made the mixture using melting snow and valuable warm water that they. Jake's thermos revealed Ghost Walker's degradation of the old. The stallion's respiration had gotten more. His eyes were glazing over, and he was in labor. Treatment for wounds and antibiotics have helped, but after 22 years of hardship, his recent experience was wearing him down. Jake pleaded, "Stay with us, boy." But he had seen enough signals to recognize them. Animals at the conclusion to determine what was approaching Luna, but appeared to sense the urgency as well. When Miguel presented her with the bottle, which she enthusiastically drank, flashing with the initial indication of genuine vitality, they would. Walker saw the ghost as she fed, and he had a glimpse of peace, aspects on which the similarities were evident. Here, Jake was an elderly warrior who made sure the following generation would live before. It was nature's way for him to rest. Yet, seeing it with my own eyes was overwhelming. An hour went by, and then two. There were no indications of abating from storm, and Tom had not. Jake came back and started to worry that they had made a poor decision by sending him out in this climate. However, ghost walkers, the state couldn't wait for the ideal circumstances, which is when they heard it, the faraway sound of engines. Tom had done more than one thing, more than obtaining the convoy's veterinarian. Came out of the storm looking like Dr. Sarah, something from movie. The mobile veterinary unit for winter was in the lead. Way that two wild trucks followed. A wildlife rescue and a horse sanctuary. Car Dr. Winters is a 50-something woman. His gentle eyes and graying hair didn't. She wasted time making small talk, directly to Ghost Walker's experience. Hands sweeping around his body with professional effectiveness. My goodness, I've been breathing, and it's him. 15 years of recording this horse, she gazed up at Jake. You were aware of his. He is a legend in these mountains. Walker protects her after stallions battle the ghost. Team practice synchronization. For fluids for Walker appropriate from ghosts. Feeding apparatuses for Luna and the majority of. Most critically, a horse with unique equipment. Caravan with built-in heating systems. In order to do emergency rescue, we must. Dr. Winter's decision following her first. Walker, the examination ghost, is crucial to his age, the wounds on his body, and the hypothermia. Is closing. We can attempt to move. Nevertheless, what Jake asked him, knew already, but he might not make it. The trip, or we may create him. Let's get comfortable here. She was unable to complete the phrase. The decision was made for them by Ghost Walker. He rose up with great effort on. The elderly stallion approached with trembling legs. Luna, and nudged her gently in the direction of the Dr. Winters and her team's human mess. Try to create ghosts despite the storm. Walker was at ease as they controlled their agony. Fluids and relief. Yet everyone was aware that they were just making it easier for him to pass the old. The stallion had managed to stay long enough to observe. Luna was secure, and his enormous heart was now. Jake knelt next to Ghost, ready to rest. Walker's grizzled hand caressing the. You did well, old boy. You did the stallion's neck. The storm started to break as she was saved. When dawn came, a world was revealed, changed in the increasing light by the snow. They had a clear view of Ghost Walker 4. His body first displayed the geography of a life filled with scars from conflicts, obtained points from the Foss defense, and the honorable demeanor of a genuine. We've recorded 17 FO that Ghost, Guardian. Throughout his life, Stalker saved. Winters softly conveyed her tone with. Respected Luna turns 18. She is his legacy. As though comprehending the Ghost Walker's eyes darted in the direction where the clip for Luna had gone soft. He nickered, but there was no sound of suffering. But it's nearly a farewell. Miguel had been using his phone before looking up the sanctuary with tears in his eyes. Luna is responding to the update that was just sent. She's drinking, though, and even displayed. He showed them interest in the other FO. A video showing Luna looking stronger already. Walker, the ghost in her warm stall, noticed the record his old eyes, focusing one final time. Time would remember what transpired next. Everyone in attendance. The elderly stallion raised his head forever. Made a single, loud whinny sound that reverberated throughout the snow-covered plains, after which he placed his head lightly. Returning. Dr. Winters says, he's calling to her. Told her in a whisper to be strong. The sun pierced the clouds, revealing golden light throughout the scene. Ghost Walker's respiration became slower with each breath. Calmer than the last. Jake, Tom, and Miguel remained with him for 3 difficult. Ranchers who cry without shame. 22. Tom whispered softly. Years of freedom. 22. Years of living up to his destiny. Walker the ghost went by as the sun completely reached the horizon with his final breath. Soft sigh. He left with the dignity he had earned. Dr. Winter's love and mission. We will bury him here, where he was, gradually, decided to take a stand here, which will be designated as a tribute to all the wild horses that demonstrate the true meaning of courage. Indicates that 3 months later, Jake got a. The Sanctuary Luna's video had expanded, robust and healthy, But more significantly, she had inherited the spirit of Ghost Walker. She was seen standing in the footage, defensively toward a younger person who would been taken in as orphans, and, regretfully, she has already begun doing it. The director of the sanctuary clarified in the message similar to Ghosts. Walker has taken in a child, will not allow anyone to be close to him without her acceptance of the heritage. Jake went on to showtime the footage, and Miguel over coffee. They observed Luna, who now had a startling her likeness to Ghost Walker, posture and defensive actions, and they realized that heroes aren't created. They are occasionally taught a single act of love. During that period, the Ghost Walker Memorial, a place of rest, turned to become a place of pilgrimage. For those who recognize the connection between people and horses, was straightforward. The plaque said, Ghost Walker, protector of. He demonstrated to us that love has no boundaries, limits,